Hi friends. So let us study about age of industrialization. Question: explain three effects of population growth in England in 18th century. Okay, remember the date. This is 18th century. Okay, urban centers expanded and industry grew. So basically, the cities expanded and the industry grew. Urban centers populations increased demand for food grains resulted in increased price of food grains. So since the number of people increased, they needed a lot of food, and because the demand for food items increased, the price of the food grains increased. Okay, this made the landed groups, the people who were owning lands, pressurize the government to restrict import of corns because they wanted to sell their corns instead of getting corns which are imported. So these are the three effects which happened because of population growth in England in 18th century. Okay, give three reasons for decline of export of Indian textile at the beginning of 19th century. Why did the Indian textile export diminish? Okay, the export market was hit due to heavy import duty on Indian textile. So what happened? They imposed a lot of duties, that is taxes on imported Indian textile. Okay, because of which export market was hit. Local market was flooded by machine made cheaper Manchester textile. So the textile which was made by machines hit the local markets, and therefore the demand for handmade textile dropped. Good quality cotton was exported and unavailable for local markets. So whatever cotton you wanted for doing textile, good quality was getting exported. So the local weavers could not get their hands on good quality cotton. Local weavers suffered because of increase of cotton prices. Okay, because the local cotton was exported, good quality was exported. Local weavers, the price increased, and local weavers were not able to afford a good quality cotton. Next question: series of changes affected pattern of industrialization in India by early 20th century. Okay, there were a series of changes which affected the industrialization in 20th century India. Okay, analyze. So Swadeshi movement boycotted foreign cloth. They said that the foreigners are just making money at our cost. Therefore, Swadeshi said that we boycott foreign cloth and we'll use our own cloth. In 1906, export of yarn to China declined. Okay, and the industry shifted to cloth. Okay, so the Chinese dependency on yarn decreased, so the export to China decreased, so we shifted to cloth. British mills had to supply goods for the First World War, and Indian factories also supplied goods for the First World War, and therefore industrialists captured the local Indian market. So these are the sort of changes that happened during the 20th century. Okay, describe the life of workers during 19th century in England. Okay, this is 19th century, that is 1850s, like 1800s to 1900s, that is the 19th century. Okay, 20th century is 1900s to 2000, it's like that. Okay, people from villages rushed to cities to find jobs. Okay, spending nights under bridges and shelters. Okay, jobs were seasonal, poor people suffered. Okay, prices increased more than wages, so the worker still suffered. Okay, women workers attacked machines like spinning jenny in fear of unemployment caused due to use of machines. Okay, so this is was the life in the 19th century of the workers. Okay, because people crowded to cities because they wanted work, and there was no place to live, so they had to live under bridges. Okay, the jobs were seasonal. Whenever the industry had work for them, they used to work. When there was no work, there were no wages for the poor people. Okay, prices had increased and their wages could not catch up with the increase in price. The machines like spinning jenny was making manual labor out of style, so they were feeling that machines like spinning jenny will capture their jobs, and they attacked industries using it. So all these were points of life of worker in England during the 19th century. Describe major problems faced by Indian cotton weavers in the 19th century. Industry in England pressurized the government to increase import duties so that the local product sells. Right. So what happened is, if Indian textile sells in UK, they will not, their products will not sell. So they put import duties on Indian textile. Okay. Industry in England forced sold their products to other countries for profit. Okay, they said they forced everybody to buy England products. Okay, Indian local weavers struggled because export had duties, and cheap machine made textile flooded the local market. Okay, so the handmade textiles by local Indians, was not in demand anymore. In 1860s, cotton supply from US were cut due to civil war, and the export of cotton price increased, and local weavers suffered because they had lost bargaining power due to the low demand of handmade goods, and their products had to be sold for lesser price. Okay, so these many points are same to question 1. Okay, question 1 was explain 3 effects of population growth in England. So there are some points here which are matching that question, just FYI. Let us continue. Next question. Describe the job of jobbers in the beginning of 20th century India. Industrialists employed jobber to get new people for work. So the job of the jobber was to find new people who could work in the industry. Jobber got people from villages for work. Okay, whoever was there in the villages who wanted to work, they brought them here. Jobbers provided money to workers and helped them settle in the city. Okay, so the jobbers helped the workers from the village settle in the city. How did seasonality of employment affect the lives of Indian workers during the 18th century? Again, this is 18th century. Seasonal employment meant that the workers did not have jobs for long periods and were out on streets. So whenever they had jobs, they worked. But whenever there was no job, they had to, spend their time out without any money. Okay, workers either went back to village or did odd jobs in the city. So when there was no job for them, they had to either go back to village or they did the odd jobs in the city. What were the guilds? How did they make it difficult for new merchants to set up business in England? Okay, guilds were associations of artisans and merchants who control the practice of their craft and trade in the city. Okay, so they were association. So suppose there was an association of steel workers, that was the association, and they were only allowed to set up industries. Suppose there was an association of woodworkers, they were the only ones who were able to set up the craft and trading city. The guilds had monopoly. Monopoly means only they can do the job to produce products. They trained people in their craft and regulated the competition. Okay, they said that we don't want competition, so only they were given the permission to produce products in their area. Okay, next question. Historians now recognize that the typical worker in mid 19th century was not a machine operator but a craftsman. Analyze. So basically, you will see that less than 20% of the workers were employed in technical industries. Okay, traditional craftsmen who made handmade products were popular as rich people preferred handmade work. Okay, many industries needed handwork only, like for example, food processing, pottery, ship repairing, etc. So handmade designs were more diverse and beautiful. So there was no shortage of human hands. Okay. So because of all these reasons, since only 20% were employed in technological industry, the statement that in mid 19th century, the artisan was not a machine operator but a craftsman holds correct. Explain the role and of advertisements for creating customers. Advertisement inspired people to consume products which they showed them as having higher status. So advertisements used to say, if you have this product, you are having more status. So because of that, people were buying those products to become to show off more status. To impress Indian customers, images of Indian gods and goddesses were used as product marketing. Advertisement showed products as desirable and necessary. So every advertisement used to show that this product is desire. Your product, you need this product, you desire this product. So because of this, advertisement made it products as desirable and necessary. Why did the East India Company appoint Gomastas? Gomastas. British appointed Gomastas because they wanted to control cotton and silk good business. Okay, Gomastas were appointed to supervise weavers. Okay, so these people didn't allow others to enter into their trade. Gomastas were supervisors of weavers. They checked the quality of cloths, and workers under Gomastas could not trade with anyone else. So basically, they wanted to control the cotton and silk trade. That's why the British appointed Gomastas. In the beginning, why was it difficult for East India Company to export from India? There was a competition from others such as French, Dutch and Portuguese for woven clothes. And the prices were high because of competition. So at the beginning, East India Company did not have the political control. Okay, so that is why they were not able to export much in the earlier periods. How did industries develop in India in the second half of 19th century? Okay, Indian industrialists benefited from opium trade with China. So China had a demand for opium and Indians benefited from opium trade. Industrialists like Dinshaw Petit and Jamshedji Nazarwanji Tata, that is J and Tata, created industries. These were the people who created industries in India. Merchants having links to Burma, Middle East, East Africa set up factories. So this is how factories started in India in the second half of 19th century. Okay, why Manchester could not recapture the position in Indian market after First World War? During the First World War, British mills produced goods for the army. Okay, Manchester products import into India reduced, giving Indian industries giving opportunity to local industries. Okay, since Manchester was busy producing products for the army in the World War, the local market was captured by local industries. Indian industries also supplied jute bags, cloth, tents, boots, etc. during the First World War. Okay, Indian industries worked in shifts to produce more. After the war, Britain could not compete with US, Japan and Germany. So these were the reasons why the Britain was not able to capture its position after the First World War. In 18th century Europe, peasants, artisans, agreed to work for merchants. Give the reason. Okay, the open field system ended, due to which peasants looked out for other sources of income. Okay, in 18th century, peasants, due to the end of open field system, they had to look for other sources for income. Small plots did not feed the whole family. The peasants had small plots which did not feed the whole family. Okay, merchants giving money helped the peasants to work from home and maintain their fields also. Okay, so this is why the peasants agreed to work for merchants who provided them with money. Okay, explain reasons for clashes between weavers and Gomastas. Okay, Gomastas acted as arrogant outsiders armed with sepoys. Okay, they were very rude to weavers. Okay, Gomastas punished weavers when the delays happened. Okay, Gomastas forced weavers to sell their products to company only at low prices and forced weavers to repay their loans taken. Because of all these reasons, there was a clashes between the weavers and Gomastas. Okay, why did industrial production in India increase during the First World War? Because of the First World War, increase in foreign import. Okay, there was a decrease in foreign import, because of which Indian industrialists were able to capture the local markets. Factories worked in multiple shifts and supplied jute bags, cloth, leather boots, etc. during the First World War. Britain could not recapture its position in Indian market, giving the opportunity to local Indian industrialists. So these are the reasons why Indian industries improved after the First World War. Explain effects of East India Company's explorative methods. See, they are exploitative methods. See, they always exploited whomever they dealt with, especially in India. Peasants and weavers were forced to migrate. Okay, because of their exploitative methods, peasants and weavers suffered and they were forced to migrate to other places. There were clashes between peasants and company officials, Gomastas and everybody else. There were clashes because they were treating weavers and peasants very badly. Weavers refused to loan payback. They closed the workshops and took to agriculture. So basically, because of the exploitative methods of British, weavers said, we don't want to work for you. We will become agriculturists. Next question. Describe function of gomastas. One is supervision of weavers for their work. Second is collection of finished products. Third is quality check of products. And fourth is punish weavers if there is any delay and give information to British. So gomastas acted as, sort of people who were supporting British, and they were rude to weavers, and that's why the weavers didn't like gomastas. And these were their four points of their functions. Why did the upper class during the Victorian period prefer things produced by hand? See, the handmade products symbolized refinement and class. Okay, when you make a product with machine, yes, you'll get some accuracy, but you'll never get the finesse or the quality of the handmade product. Handmade products had better finish and design, and handmade product had variety of designs, because of which the people in the upper class preferred handmade products, and they used it as a status symbol. What was proto-industrialization? Explain the importance. See, proto-industrialization refers to early phase where product was created in home by hand by artisans. Okay, so industry was a home industry. Okay, this enabled efficient utilization of all villagers, and it was supplementary income for the peasants who are working in the fields also. All the demands were fulfilled, and this was a base, this was a starting base for a proper industrialization. Next question. Explain ways by which new markets and consumers were created in India by British manufacturers. Products were advertised via newspapers, magazines, and boardings. Okay, products were labeled with company brand names. Okay, images of Indian god and goddesses were used in marketing. Okay, and nationalist messages were also used for marketing. So using all these 4 points, using all these techniques, British were able to create new markets for the consumers in India. Thank you, friends.